quick reflection on the 2021 State of the Nation address. Just that the president's speech focused on 4 overarching points: COVID-19, vaccinations, economic recovery, and job creation and corruption. And those were some of the important points coming out of 2021 on corruption. President Cyril Ramaphosa announced that a National Anti-Corruption Advisory Council, which is multi-sectoral, would be created and would report to the entire parliament, not just the ruling party. So those are some of the things we're watching to see if will happen. On economic recovery and job recreation, the president said government's relief programs during the pandemic had aided millions and that government was working in the rollout of infrastructure, local production, local stimulus to increase jobs and rapid expansion of energy generation. And these are some of the important conversations I'm about to have with the next analyst. We're joined now by Azar Jammine. Mr. Jammine, thank you so much for making the time to speak to us this morning. Of course, we're watching to see if all of those promises I just spoke about, I don't know if you were listening, are going to come to fruition. What is your sense?
That is the essence of the reaction that one is likely to elicit from the State of the Nation address. It is now, I think, the 5th one that President Ramaphosa is going to deliver as president. And in each one of these the SONA addresses, he has intimated that the government intends doing this and that. And yet there is absolute frustration with what is perceived to be the non-implementation of promises that have been made. And so I think that on this occasion there will be a lot of skepticism yet again as to whether what he says will indeed come to be translated into reality. And what we also know is that a lot of the rationale for the non-implementation is the fact that there is factionalism within the ruling party and that the president is not entirely free to get his way in terms of implementing some of his ideas. And secondly, we also know that there is gross inefficiency and incompetence as well as corruption within the corridors of state and especially at municipal level, leading to an inability to take decisions on and implement many of these projects, or to be very tardy in implementing them. And this is largely attributable to the ANC's policy of cadre deployment, which the president himself admitted to in his testimony to the Zondo Commission a few months ago. So the SONA is likely, whatever way one looks at it, even if it's a brilliant speech, it's likely to still be met with skepticism on the part of many as to whether it will lead to any concrete action. And it's absolutely essential that we do start making a move on some of the structural reforms in the economy. Already we can see that most economic forecasts for this year and next see the economy growing at no more than 1.5% to 2%. After having had a recovery of 5% last year. And the reason why economists are so dismal in their forecasts is precisely because they do not seem to have much confidence in the ability of the government to implement what it often says it will do, which is the right thing, but it doesn't actually end up doing it. You mentioned infrastructural investment spending. That is an absolute key. The government, President Ramaphosa himself in October 2020, in presenting the Economic Recovery and Reconstruction Program, incorporated the expectation that, the decision taken together with private sector business leaders, that the government would implement 51 infrastructural projects worth 340 billion rand. And then this was followed up in the medium-term budget policy statement in November by Finance Minister Godongwana, suggesting that a further 55 projects worth 595 billion rand had been agreed upon. That's a total of 930 billion rands worth of infrastructural investment in the pipeline. And yet that is massive. And were those projects to be implemented, it would be a game changer. You would see massive employment creation, and the country would see growth expanding by 2% or more over and above what it's capable of doing currently. And it would resolve many of our infrastructural service delivery problems. But people are saying, well, that was 1.5 years ago. Have we started seeing any of such programs being implemented? And I can't get a positive answer out of many business leaders I've spoken to in that regard.
Just in terms of your own scanning of the environment, you speak about these very important infrastructural projects, 55 of them. Just mention 2 or 3 or even 5 of them that could really make a difference if implemented.
Well, we all know about the move towards trying to get renewable energy and trying to make ourselves more independent in terms of electricity supply. We also know about the broadband spectrum idea to try and enable the country's population to access digital means more cheaply and more effectively. But over and above that, I was took foreign visitors around the country last month, and to various tourist sites. The potholes are absolutely appalling and are soon going to be a major impediment to development of tourism in the country. So the road infrastructure requires huge amounts. The second one is port infrastructure. We are fully aware of the major impediments and disruption to trade that has come about through ineffective port operations. Third one is water. We are seeing water outages left, right, and center. And may I say that I think that potentially that could become more serious than electricity outages. Then there's the whole question of in social services. Our hospitals really leave much to be desired. Our public hospitals, in terms of the need to uplift their infrastructure. Charlotte Maxege is still closed.
You mentioned political reasons why the president's hands are tied in terms of implementing these very important projects. South Africans are watching as these events unfold. 2 days ago, we had the release of the report on the July unrest, which hugely impacted the economy. Why is there no sense of outrage in South Africa?
It's a question. It's a very good question, and it's a question that many of us ask. And in a way, we can be very thankful that there is not outrage, because in many other countries, the kind of social depravity that we're seeing in this country would have led to massive riots and protests. I can only believe that it's because of people are still united in believing that we're still in the struggle phase and have to try and work together, and the belief that many of these ills are caused by the ravages of apartheid. Well, yes, at heart, many of them were caused by apartheid, but we've had 28 years of full democracy now, and we've made very little progress there. It is, fortunately, a source of comfort that the country is not exploding socially in a manner that might otherwise have been the case. One of the reasons, ironically, and this is very relevant to today, is because of the rollout of social grants to more than a third of the population historically. And now if you add the special social grant of 350 Rand a month, you move to nearly half the population is basically living on handouts. And this is just keeping a bit of peace for the moment, because it is preventing a lot of people from starving in a way that they might have done if there were no social grants. But how far can we go in expanding this network of social grants? Financially, the fiscus suggests that it's impossible to go any further.
As we're speaking to you, we're watching live footage coming out from the City Hall of the President alongside the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, just coming out of the City Hall after having conducted a site inspection. Just what are the economic conversations taking place around the State of the Nation being moved from Parliament to City Hall?
I really haven't paid too much attention to it. For me, it's a bit of a storm in the teacup, and even this whole debate about 4 million rand being spent on holding it physically rather than virtually. 4 million rand in the broader scheme of things is not a lot of money when you look at what has been lost through state capture and corruption, which is multiples, hundreds of and thousands of multiples of that figure. Really, I don't think it's a big thing. I think it was a political decision. And who am I to actually say whether it's the right or the wrong decision to have done so?
Thanks for making the time to speak to us, Azar Jammine there.